everyone, welcome back to the channel. I hope all of you are doing great. This is the third tutorial on the JavaScript series, and in this video we are going to talk about various types of data types that exist in JavaScript. Also, we are going to be differentiating between null type and undefined type, what undefined means in JavaScript. Last but not the least, we are also going to discuss one of the most important topic in JavaScript interviews, that is type coercion, and we are going to see various use cases of type coercion, various test cases of type coercion when a data type is converted into a different data type and why it is happening. So we are going to learn a lot in this video. With that, if you're liking this series, just consider giving a thumbs up to this video and sharing with someone whom you might think this playlist or this series or this video could be helpful to them. This just motivates me to create more such contents. With that, let's get started in the video. Hey everyone, welcome back to this JavaScript series, and I hope you're liking this series. If yes, consider liking this video and sharing with someone. This playlist might be helpful to them. So with that, today we are gonna learn about data types. So data types is also one of the most important things that people neglect while preparing for interviews or while learning JavaScript, because if you understand let and const, or where mostly people think that it's gonna cover all of the things, right? But that's not the case. There is a lot of things that goes around data types. So we are gonna talk about data types, various types of data type in JavaScript. We are also gonna talk about a lot of things around type coercion. We are gonna also talk about a lot of things around undefined. We are gonna talk about things around not defined, null, certain kinds of concept like that will make things more clear, right? So the first thing is like data types, right? So if you're coming from other programming language, you might already know like what data types are. So in general, like for example, for any programming language, you're writing some code or you're writing some function or anything, right? It eventually deals with data, the data that the application or anything that you're building, a platform or application or CLI or anything that might deal with data. So you take data as an input data, or you read data from the database or any other means of like source of data. So that data needs to be stored somewhere, right? So that container is known as variables or constant. So we store that data for that particular time of time in variables that can differ, or constant that can't differ, right? So we decide based on that. So now whatever that variable or constant is holding is there are certain kinds of data that it can hold. That is known as data types. So we have a container of data where data it can hold, but who decides what kind of data it can hold? That is decided by data types. And in JavaScript, there are some basic data types. There are 8 basic data types that we deal with in JavaScript, and we are going to look into them one by one. There are 8 types of kinds of data type. So there are 8 kinds of data a data container can hold in JavaScript, right? So we are going to look into one by one. So the first one and the famous one, right, is come as the name of strings, right? So strings, when you say something like strings, the notion also come like it can store some strings, like it can store some text. So string is used to store text, and generally in JavaScript it is surrounded by double quotes. For example, if I'm writing some string, for example my name, it is generally surrounded by double quotes, or it can be surrounded by single quotes as well, right? Or it can be surrounded by backticks. This particular backticks is found like just above your tab key, right? It can also be surrounded by backticks. The importance of these backticks is lot when you do interpolations, like for example you want to write something like hello, and you want to write a name there, and this name will be a dynamic name. Then you put like backticks in there, so this name can be put dynamically. So that place we use generally backticks. So I hope the string is clear. Let's dive into directly into VS Code and see how does it look. So generally, like if you do something like const or var, for example my name, and you type Rohan, so this will generally infer that it is a string. And also if you do double quotes, this will also infer as a string, and if you give backticks, this is also infer as a double tick, right? But let's see the importance of backticks. So the backticks so important is you can inject dynamic data, like the solution of this will be injected here. So let's log one by one what they give us, like I'll name it 2 and I'll name it 3, and similarly 2 and 3. I hit save and go to my browser. I go to console and I see Rohan and Rohan 7. So you see that this is already computed value, right? And if you type up, so there is a operator known as type of, which give the type of the variable, right? So it will give the type of these variables. So all of them will be expected to have string, right? As you can see. So this three kind of ways of declaring string. So this is how we bring up string. Let's look into the next set of data type. This is again a lot of uses for this is known as numbers, right? If you're coming from any other languages such as C, C++, you might have already seen numbers in the form of integer, in the form of float, right? But in JavaScript, it all comes into one bracket, right? If you go into the type of any variable or constant, it will show you number, doesn't differentiate much into floating or integer values. So how do you declare a number, right? The first way is let's talk about for brackets switch into comments. So number represent two set of values. One is integers again, but we don't differentiate integer and float. It tell them as a number, right? And next stage is decimals or exponential values, right? So integers you might already know, like 0, 1, 2, 3. For decimals, like pointing values. Exponential is again with the 10 to the power something that we'll gonna see. So this majorly comes into these two brackets. All right, now how to declare it? So we use const or let or var. Any of these are container for the variable, creating a container for the variable, right? Not the data types, right? We don't specify data type in JavaScript explicitly. What happens when you assign value to a variable? What happens is JavaScript implicitly declares finds out the data type of that value, right? So what you do is you write, for example, let's see we are declaring a integer value. We just write, for example, num1 equal to 1. This will go into the bracket of integer value. If we write again for example num2 as pointing value, for example value of pi, right? So this will go into bracket of floating point value, decimal value, but again type of will give you as number itself. The next bracket exponential, again let's see that as well. So if we write for example 2e4, when this e gives the exponential value, and what will the thing it will contain is it will do 2 into 10 to the power 4. So this is how exponential value is calculated, right? So this comes under integer, this comes under floating, decimal, this comes under exponential. But if you determine the type of all of this using type of operator, they will give you number. Okay, they will give you number, right? One more thing to look into is when you are declaring these values or computing these values, there will be instant when you'll see key this is not lying in the number range, right? Something else happens when you do the calculation. For that we have a special kind of numbers is known as not a number. It is not a number, then also we keep it in the bracket of numbers. That interesting again, right? So whichever number you have will be lying between a certain range. If you consider C or C++, there will be a certain range where numbers integer lied or float like, or any other values like. Similarly, this number will have range of 2 to the power 53 minus 1 to 2 to the power 53 minus 1. This will be the negative range. So we call this as negative infinity, and we call this as positive infinity. So in the simple terms, and there will be instance when you see infinity as a type of as well. We'll see when, right? So this is how the range of number lies. If you want to extend this range, there is something known as BigInt, which if you want to use larger number than this, you can use BigInt. We'll see next that as well. So let's go into our VS and quickly check all of these things, right? Let me remove all of this and let me declare num1 equal to 10, or let's see num2 equal to 3.14, and we say num3 equal to our exponential value, for example e2, e5, or 4 or 3, or let's say anything, right? If you console log this value, you'll see the exact value for all of this. Oops, I mistakenly deleted it. Okay, num1, num2, and num3, right? So what happens is, if you go to our browser, now we will see all the values, plus you will also see the computed value of exponential data type, right? Exponential number. So that is this particular num3. If you do type of these things, you will typically get a number of all this type is number, right? The data type of all these variables are number, right? Now let's go ahead and one more time and divide it by 0, right? We all know what is the value going to be, right? So if you take type of num1 now, right, it will be number again. But if you check the value of num1 now, it will be infinity. If you see, this will be infinity. We always knew like this will go to infinity, but it's also showing infinity, and this infinity value has 2 to the power 53 minus 1, right? And that's also minus side on the number range, right? So this way we differentiate. For example, also not a number. So there will be scenarios when not a number comes in. For example, let's say if we divide a string, for example my name, by 2, for example, right? So we all know we can't divide strings with number, right? It will make no sense. But let's see and go ahead and what is the value of num2. You will get not a number, NaN. So whenever you divide something like this, it will go into a not a number, special bracket in the number segment itself. But when the value is concrete like infinity, it will show infinity, minus infinity, plus infinity, both, right? So this is how it happens in the in the segment of number. Let's talk about BigInt now, right? So you might already seen, like we saw that integer contains 2 to the power 53 minus 1, 2. This is in negative range, 2 to the power 53 minus 1. This range values only, right? And to overcome this, we have a new data type known as BigInt, which we append by creating n to the number. For example, if I'm creating a BigInt, I usually create, for example, 10. We postfix it with n. So this n will direct JavaScript that this is a BigInt, right? And it can contain very, very long values, right? You can even add to BigInt values to get a even more larger number, right? And let's just see directly example of it, of BigInt, right? So if I go ahead and do, for example, const num1, very long number, right? Very long number. If I write very long number and add n to it, it will become a BigInt, right? If I console log this one and go to the browser, we'll see this, it is logged here, and we can see that's BigInt. But how we'll get to know it is a BigInt? We literally do type of to this as well, and we see that this is a BigInt, right? The type of it is BigInt. You can also add two BigInts. For example, if I write num2 and declare another BigInt with n, I can literally add two BigInts. So this property also comes very handy because there is very big number that is BigInt and there is a very big number that is BigInt. We add two BigInts, eventually being up a more larger number that can be also accommodated in BigInt. So that is one special property. So if I save it and go back, you'll see that this is added and this is producing a or more larger number that is also a BigInt. And if I do type of, we'll generally see that this is a type of BigInt. Let me bring more brackets so it will give anything. Yeah. So you will see this BigInt. But one special property is, for example, if you're adding some other number or other types, data types, for example number, right? For example, if I type num3 and it is not a BigInt, right, and I try to add this with num1, that is a BigInt. So what we are doing is we are adding a integer, we are adding a not BigInt, just a number with BigInt. So usually this will throw error saying that cannot make BigInt and other types use explicit conversion. So we have to explicitly convert this value or this number to BigInt or other, right, to get it added and sorted, right? So this is how BigInt works. It has bigger range than number. That's the most important property of BigInt. With that, let's quickly move on to one of the most important, and again you'll be using a lot of time to determine the condition of a lot of things. And the next one is Boolean. You might seen this too in other programming language as well, and you might be already knowing like what is the value it have. So it can have two values, true and false. So it is just a by value type which will have only two values, true or false. Typically represent logical entities, like you can put that in if condition. Here some condition will be there that will evaluate to true, either false. So it you will be using it lot actually, right? So I hope it is clear. So if you go to VS Code and declare a constant and assign value, for example bool to true, if I console log this particular variable and go to my browser, I see true. Let's see the type of it. Type of it will be giving us Boolean. So Boolean is again another type. Let's look into one of the most important concept that is in data type, that is known as undefined. So undefined is also a type in JavaScript, data type in JavaScript. So I'm talking about undefined data type, right? So undefined represents a value that is not assigned yet. Represents a value that is not assigned. So if you declare a variable like this, var n, right? So till this point, whenever n is assigned 10 later, till this point, the value of n will be replaced by a special keyword known as undefined, right? This is a special placeholder till the value is coming. So this is a special placeholder that is put there, right? So this is come very handy because you can also compare some values with undefined as well, right? Let's quickly look into the code directly, right? So for example, if I declare a variable, let's see, let x, and I do some random stuff. For example, I am here, and after that I assign the value to this, right? And let's go to the browser and see what it is giving us. So it is say I am here, right? And everything is executed. Now let's place a breakpoint here and re-execute the program. It will be stuck here, right? Because we have placed a breakpoint. Let x is declared here, and if you see now, the value of x till now is undefined. So JavaScript has a special placeholder till the value is initialized, like some value is assigned to it, right? Till it's keeps a placeholder known as undefined, right? So if you continue executing, it will have this assigned 10 and then it will end up, right? So let's go and do one simple thing. So I can also compare these values to this keyword as well. So that is one of the good thing, and you can decide many use cases for it. So let's check if it is giving us I am defined or not, right? If I go to console, it says I am undefined. That goes into this, so it is actually becoming true. So there is a lot of things that go behind this undefined, but over the use case you can generally understand it as a placeholder, right? Now again, undefined, it sounds like something is not defined, right? So if you're coming from other programming languages, there could be something like null values. Yes, that is also a keyword in keyword or data type in JavaScript. So literally, null is also a keyword in JavaScript. So if I go there, literally null is also a keyword in JavaScript. Null is like just a variable. For example, if I console log x is right now not declare itself, right? Not declare itself. So we can't access this x here, right? But if I want to null represent a special character that is empty or unknown, right? So if I declare a const number equal to null, so I can literally assign something to a variable or constant. For example, I can also do where x equal to null. So this will depict that null is empty till now. Later on I can change it to 10. So you can use this condition as well. If x equal to null, do something else, do something else. So this could also happen, right? So we'll talk about the difference between null and undefined later in this session, but let's move on to other type. The other type is presented in ES6 of JavaScript now, and it is known as symbol. So symbol might sound like it's not a data type or kind of thing if you're coming from other programming language, but symbol is also a data type in JavaScript. So what does symbol represents, right? Symbol is a special data type in JavaScript that can be representing a symbol value. So if you see a symbol, it usually comes in your mind that a symbol is something unique, and that is a concept brought here as well. Symbol is immutable primitive value that is unique, right? So you can declare symbol something like this. For example, if you have a const, and let's say const n equal to, right? So you can do something like this. So symbol represents a class here, for example, and I can do literally Rohan. So literally this n will represent a symbol known as Rohan, right? So if you again declared another, for example, m, right? This is a constant, and you declared symbol that is again a Rohan, and if you try to match this, right, this will be not similar. This will be result into falsy value. This will result in a falsy value, because symbol is immutable and unique, right? Let's see in code quickly this one, right? So if for example I declared n, that is a symbol Rohan, right? And I declared m, that is a symbol, again I add the same values, and I check if n equal m, right? Console log same, else what I'll do is I'll console log not same. So we'll get a answer like that is not same, because even the value is inside them is same, the description is same, but they represent a different symbol that are unique, right? So that's the concept behind symbol, and it is used in so many places, right? It is used in so many places that can be a lot of useful, right? So you can use it in object when you are looping through when you're looping through the for loop, symbol is not identified as a key when you're looping through a for loop. So there are a lot of use case of symbol, so you can consider reading about it or more, right? But for this video we'll keep on moving, and we'll move to our next data type, that is known as object. An object, I would say, if you're dealing with API calls or anything like that deals with a lot of data, you might be using object for that. I'm talking about this object. So in JavaScript it looks something like this. This is an empty object. So object is also data type in JavaScript, right? So object is a complex data type that is used to you store collection of data. So an object can store other set of data type that we talked about, for example strings, for example numbers, for example Boolean, and other sets. So let's go ahead and look into directly code. I'll go to my VS Code and I'll create an object. For example, let's create a person. I'll keep this as name. So see, I have assigned a name and I'll just assign a string value. So now you can see we are collating all the other data types like strings, right? Next thing is like we can assign other things as well. For example, email Rohan something @example.com, for example, right? So I can assign email as well. I can assign other things as well. Is teaching, for example, this could be a Boolean value. Yes, I am teaching right now, right? So this could be another thing, right? So this way you can assign values to it. So this is a string value, this two are string value, this is a Boolean value. So this object will be created. So if I console log this person and go to the browser, you'll see this is a complex object, right? And you'll see this prototype as well, and prototype is one of the most important concept. We'll talk about that in coming session, but for now, like if you see all the values are here, and how we access value inside it, I can just do a dot. For example, I want to access name. You can already see this is coming. I want to access name, so it will show me the name, right? So this is how object works. Now the thing is, whenever you're dealing with API calls and all, mostly data will coming in the form of JSON that you talked about, JavaScript object notation, right? And what happens if we assign that JSON, convert from JSON using stringify or using parse, we convert vice versa from object to JSON to object, right? But typically JSON structure is same as object structure, so the conversion becomes very handy. But just remember, like this particular object is a very important concept, because there will be a lot of concept lies around this. If you do type of person.name, inside that name was there as a string, so you'll see that string. But if you do the entire thing for this, you will see that object, the entire thing is an object, right? So now we already talked about undefined and null as a data type, but let's differentiate between them, what they mean, how they are different in between both of each, right? So the first thing is, we have already talked about undefined represents something that is not assigned a value yet, right? But null represents something that is not pointing to an object, that doesn't exist, right? That doesn't exist. So if you assign a value, for example, if you declared a value, let's say let x, right, it will be assigned a undefined value. So as we saw previously, like in the browser where the breakpoint was hitting, it was giving us undefined. But the thing is, when you do as x equal to null, and this assignment means x is not pointing to anything, but this means that this is pointing to something, this have a memory space, but the value is not defined yet. It will be defined in the future, right? Or maybe in some time, right? Also, like it differs from the data type when you see the type of it. So if we see the type of null, right, if you see the type of null, it will generally return as an object, right, as an object. And if you see the type of undefined, it will generally return as an undefined itself. So let's quickly see this thing in the code itself. So for example, if I declared a x equal to null and const y equal to undefined, right, and I do console log type of X and console log type of Y, right? So this will give me object and undefined, and I'll tell you the reason. So null gives us type as an object, and undefined gives us a type as a undefined, right? So one of the other thing that differentiate is when you are performing some primitive actions, like so this null will be converted into 0. It converts itself into 0 whenever you're doing any primitive actions, and this undefined converts itself to not a number that we saw some previous time, right? So this conversion also happens implicitly when you are doing some primitive actions, right? So now you have understood different type of data types, what undefined means, what null means to you, how undefined works behind the scenes, and etc, etc. Now let's into a topic that is one of the most important topic in data types for an interview perspective, and that is known as type coercion, right? And let's get started with that. So let's start finally talking about type coercion. That is one of the most important topic in this session. This is a direct interview question that comes whenever it comes to data types, like how type coercion happen, and it also comes into various output questions whenever you are given a snippeted code and you are told to tell the output of it, right? Or explain like how type coercion work. So let's understand like what is type coercion first. So type coercion is of two types, right? First, let's understand that two type first. So first one is implicit, and second one is explicit. So implicit is the one where the JavaScript itself does the type coercion whenever you are performing some action. So basically explicit conversion depends upon us means programmers, but implicit coercion depends upon the JavaScript. Whatever is done by JavaScript, we have to accept it, right? So let's look into a quick example for type coercion. So I'll go and declare two values, const, let's say x equal to hello or 10, let's say. It will be simpler to explain you, and const equal to 10. So one is type is string, and next one you already have guessed is a number, right? Let me do one thing. Let res x plus y. Coming from other language, you might tell what is happening here, like you are adding two string to a number, right? But it is JavaScript, everything is possible here. So if we console log this and go to the browser, you'll see that this results into 10 and 10, right? So this results into 10 10. So there is a solid reason behind it, right? So this is known as implicit type coercion, because JavaScript has converted this particular 10 to the string value 10 and added to this string value, it gives us 10 and 10. We'll understand various use cases as well, like test cases as well, where when which conversion happens, right? So this is example of implicit conversion, right? Let's understand the explicit conversion. Now if I say let res2 equal to x plus y, it will give me 10 and 10. It will give me 1010 as a string. Yes. So now what I can do is I want to tell this JavaScript that don't convert this to a string, don't convert this y to a string, rather convert this x string to a number. And if you see the results now, right, and go to the browser, you'll see that it is giving us a 20, because we have told that this should be converted into a number. That converts into a 10, number 10, and it is added to a number 10 that results in a 20, right? Let's into the various use cases where when which data type converts into which data type. Let's look into first string to number conversion. So string and number conversion, right? So the first thing is whenever a string or a non-string value, just remember this rule, whenever a string and non-string value is added to a string, it always convert the non-string value to a string, right? So let me show you one whiteboard as well so you remember it very nicely. Whenever a string is added to a non-string value, any value, non-string value, it always convert this non-string value to a string value. So that always happens, right? That always happens. For example, if you go ahead and do this, right? If you go ahead and do var x equal to 10 plus 50, right? So what will happen is it will always convert, this is a string value, so it will leave it, it is non-string value, it will always convert this to a string and it will become a string here, and x will have a value 1050. So even if I don't convert, it will have implicit conversion. Let's look at that. It is x. Let's go to the browser and you'll see that it is converted into 1050, right? So non-string value will be always converted into a string value, right? Let's look into the next case, like where string to number conversion happen. It was like number to string conversion happening, but when so this you have seen that this is addition value, but when there is operations like subtraction, right, like multiplication, like division, like modulo, right, if any of this operation apart from addition happen, all the values that are not number, any data type, all the values that are not number are converted into a number data type, right? Now let's understand it in the whiteboard quickly. So suppose there is a number, it is like performing actions like subtraction, multiplication or division or modulo with any string or data type, right? This other string or data type will always be converted into number. That is clear, right? Let's understand with a quick example to it. Let me comment this out so it doesn't disturb us. I'll go and create a variable known as x equal to, I'll give a string, and what I'll do is I'll add I'll subtract 5 here, right? Let's understand z equal to 50 divided by 10. So let's understand these two thing first. So this is z. So just guess the output, right? Before going to the browser, just guess the output, right? So as per our discussion, this will be converted into a number as there is subtraction happening. This will convert it into again a number as division happening, right? And if I go to the browser, I'll see 5 and 5 because 10 minus 5 equal to 5 and 50 divided by 5 equal to 5. So understand it again, whenever number is performing any operation with other data type, right, minus multiplication, division or modulo, the other data type other than number data type is converted into number, right? This is super clear. Now let's move on to one more case, like Boolean to number conversion. Boolean to number conversion, if I like quickly, Boolean have only true and false values, so it makes our life very easier in the sense of learning it. But when Boolean is added to a number, the Boolean value is converted to number as it is safer, because as it is safer. For example, there are only two values in Boolean, true and false, right? JavaScript will convert this to add 1 as a number and convert this as 0. As simple as that, as simple as that. Let's look at an example quickly. If I have a variable and I have x equal to, let's say 5 plus true, and let's say a variable y equal to 10 minus false, right? Let's guess the output. Before going to the browser, let's guess the output, and I'll console log this quickly. Y. I hope you have guessed the output. Let's look into it. X will become 6 because 5 and Boolean is always converted into a number, so it will become 1 and it will give us 6, and here false is converted into 0, so 10 will be remain as 10. Let's go to the browser and check the output. We are correct, right? So this becomes 1 and this becomes 0, right? So this was one case. The last case we are going to look at is the equality operator. Whenever you are performing operation in JavaScript, you will be tending to use this double equal to and triple equal to in your program to compare things, right? To compare various things. The scenario here is the equality operator can be used to compare different values, right? Different values, number with a string with a number, Boolean with a string with, like, undefined or symbol, anything, right? So this is done by coercing a non-number data type to a number, as simple as that. So whenever you are performing equal to operator, the other data type other than number will be always converted into number data type. That should be clear. Let's look into example for this. For example, if I declare result equal to 20 equal, let's say true, right? And where, let's say other example, taking as like a string as example, for example, res2 equal to 40 minus 20 or 29, right? So this is like number and string. Let's understand now, where result 3 equal to true equal to true. So this can also happen, like there is no number type here, right? So I'm writing the console log. Till then you can guess the output quickly. I'll write res2, I'll write res3, right? I hope like you might have already guessed, right? So if we go to this and select this one, so other number will always convert it into number type, right? So this is other type. So this 20 is fine. 2 will be converted into 1. 2 will be converted into 1 because it's a Boolean type. So this will convert into 1. So this will give us false value. So this will give us false value. Let's go to the next one. Res 40 minus 29. Again, data type other than number will be converted into number. 29 will be converted into a number. So 40 minus 29 will give us 11, right? But we will be discussing here like double equal to, so let it make it double equal to. So while comparing, it will convert it into number. It is equal to, is it equal to 40 minus equal to 29? No. So this will give us false value again. Now let's into this. This will be tricky because it is compare equal to, there is no number, right? So this number will be converted into a number value, right? Whenever this case happens, wherever number doesn't know which range or which value to convert to, it simply brings it to NaN. That is not a number, right? So this will become not a number and it will be passed to 1 because true can be, like Boolean value can be passed to number 1. So it is equal, no, it will again become false value. So let's go to the browser and see all will be false. If you see, all will be false. So this is how this happens, like type coercion. So we look into various data types, undefined, what is null value, comparison between those, type coercion, and this is very, very important. So just practiced out everything, every test case we talked about. With that, thank you so much for watching this video. I'll see you next time. Oh, it was a long video, but I hope you have learned a lot of things about data types, type coercion, null and undefined in JavaScript. If you have liked this video, consider giving a thumbs up to this video and sharing this video with your friends so they can gain more knowledge on JavaScript and other tech videos, because I regularly bring tech videos and JavaScript tutorials on this channel. With that, I'll see you next time. Till then, take care, bye bye, and just hit the subscribe button. Yep.